The Baltimore Ravens instantly became the winners of draft weekend with Lamar Jackson's extension and the Zay Flowers pick. We talk about why that's the case, get into the Flowers pick, what he brings to Baltimore. Also talk about Lamar Jackson's mega deal, looking at what it means for the team moving forward, and also taking a dive into what the Ravens could do here today on day 2 of the draft. All that and more coming up next here on this Friday edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into a Friday edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm here with you, your host, Kevin Oestreicher, Ravens Wire, and we're here, as always, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for being here with us, making us your first listen each and every day. Are free and available all podcasting platforms, including on YouTube. You can subscribe for free, both in video form and audio form here. And today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Baltimore Football GM. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an NFL general manager and managing a football franchise, this game is definitely for you. So download the game at ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game. And we're back after day one, the conclusion of day one of the 2023 draft. And honestly, the conclusion of probably the best or one of the best offseason days in Baltimore Ravens history. Lamar Jackson signs a 5-year, $260 million deal, $185 million in total guarantees there, and we'll continue, I think, to get that contract information over the course of the weekend. But that was, I think, the big domino to fall. And then the Ravens taking Zay Flowers, the wide receiver from Boston College, at pick number 22 in the 2023 draft. So we have a lot to dive into today. We did so much content over here on the channel. Yesterday, we did 2 live streams, one after Lamar Jackson signed his extension, the other after the Zay Flowers selection. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, be sure to do so in video form. They're also over in audio form as well. If you want to just listen to them, we put out a bunch of shorts, a bunch of tweets. I did a bunch of articles. I will not lie. I am very exhausted right now as I record this, obviously for 6 a.m. here on Friday. But we chug along here, and the Ravens pretty much said, you know what? You know, Kevin, the draft is the busiest weekend of the year, right? We're going to draft the biggest extension in team history on the same day. So, yeah, it's definitely been a lot. But it's been fun. You know, I think the Lamar extension lifted a weight off of everybody's shoulders. Having it happen in real time and kind of watching it unfold was really cool. We'll talk about that in the second segment, though. Here in the first segment, I do want to get into Zay Flowers and just how the Ravens really instantly won draft weekend with the moves that happened for them with Flowers and obviously Lamar. So we'll talk about both those. Flowers here in the first segment, breaking down that pick a little more than Lamar's extension and the contract, whatever you want to say, in the second segment. Then in the final segment, we'll talk a tad about DeAndre Hopkins, but mostly about what the Ravens should do, what they could do on day 2 of the 2023 draft here. So tons of content. If you have a friend or a family member who likes the Ravens, wants a Ravens perspective on things, be sure to throw them over here our way. I think a lot of people like the, they say, word of mouth isn't a thing anymore. They like the social media, but word of mouth is a thing. So tell anybody we're podcasting your daily on Locked On Ravens. I really appreciate it. But let's talk Zay Flowers now. 22nd overall pick for Baltimore out of Boston College, 5'10", 172. Super explosive guy. I mean, over the course of his 4 years in Boston College, 3,056 yards on 200 catches, 29 touchdowns, also 57 carries, 345 yards in 2 touchdowns, 6.1 yards per carry there. I mean, Flowers had a breakout year in 2022, but was solid both in 2020 and 2021. 2022, he had 78 catches, 1,077 yards, and 12 touchdowns. Actually, the lowest yards per catch number of his college career at 13.8. He averaged 17 in 2021, 15.9 in 2020, and then 15.5 in 2019. Flowers is, again, I mentioned, on the smaller side, but the explosiveness is there. You see it in his game. An absolute devastating route runner. This is somebody who is going to break ankles. He's going to sauce up defensive backs. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a fun time to watch Zay Flowers. And I know for a lot of people, look, myself included, I would have liked to see Joey Porter Jr. be the pick. I am not mad is Zay Flowers whatsoever. Corner or wide receiver was the route I wanted the Ravens to go at 22. You see kind of how the board fell to them. It fell in, honestly, a really, really nice way. It wasn't necessarily perfect at the end of the day. I think it was perfect for a while, but then we saw a run on corners and a little run on wide receivers, which the Ravens were a part of. But the Ravens, Devon Witherspoon goes pretty early to Seattle, but then Christian Gonzalez falls all the way to 17. I wanted Christian Gonzalez bad. I talked about it in the live stream. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I wanted Christian Gonzalez bad. He ends up going to Bill Belichick, so of course he goes to the Patriots because, of course, Bill Belichick does that. But at the end of the day, Emmanuel Forbes goes before Baltimore picks. Then Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think a lot of people wanted him. He goes to Seattle at 20. Quentin Johnston goes to the Chargers at 21. Flowers, I think some people are worried about the size with him. They're worried about the drops as well. Flowers did have an 11% drop rate in college, 24 career drops for him over the course of 200 catches. So that is 11% drop rate there. And in terms of, what his size is, in terms of how it actually defines his role, is he a pure slot player? Can you play him on the outside? Those are the questions that the Ravens and a lot of people will have to answer. But this just adds the explosive element. And I think it is like the final piece. We'll talk about that throughout the course of the week here. Well, of course, next week on Locked On Ravens. But to me, you have a room now. Odell Beckham, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Devin Duvernay, Nelson Aguilar. People are saying, well, the room is too deep. Like, you have too many wide receivers. You should trade Duvernay away. And I talked about this on the live stream too. We saw what happened when the Ravens kind of play with their depth a little bit and didn't have a lot of it. Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay go down. You're working with a bunch, veterans who are washed up and young wide receivers that, maybe aren't meant for that moment. No disrespect, obviously, to anybody, but you need to have depth. Now the Ravens are positioned. If Rashad Bateman has to miss a couple games, if Odell has to miss a couple games, you have options now to put out there and not say you're running out a bunch of guys who you're like, why is this guy playing right now? Why did the Ravens neglect the position again? The Ravens have clearly put a huge emphasis on getting this position right. I think Flowers brings that to them. A lot of people wanted Jordan Addison. He was my pick. I don't hate Zay Flowers though. Like, I actually think this is a really, really good pick because of the fact that he's someone that has also improved in some areas. I think over the course of the start of his college career wasn't necessarily this big, like, go up for the ball and be super aggressive. I think he got a lot more aggressive as his college career went on. And now at the catch point, you clearly see him competing a lot more, which is what the Ravens need. Go up there, attack the football there. His route speed is very good. The tempo throws defenders off as well. But you get him the ball, you get him the ball on a screen. You get him the ball in the open, like in the middle of the field. He makes guys miss. He makes plays happen. He picks up first downs. He makes yards after the catch. That's what you need. And with Odell Beckham, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, I put it on Twitter. It is a devastating route running trio. Those guys all know how to run routes, how to get open. And in order for Lamar to be able to be as effective as I think we want him to be moving forward, he has to have a good receiving group around him. Lamar has proven that he can do it without, the best receiving corps in the league. Is Baltimore's the best in the league? No, it's not. But I think it is vastly, vastly improved. And this, again, shows the commitment to Lamar. You bring in Odell, you draft Zay Flowers, have an explosive group around him. Plus, not even mentioning Mark Andrews, who is still there, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards in the run game. This pick, to me, I give it an A-. Again, I would have probably preferred a corner. I know Joey Porter Jr., Deonte Banks still there. But I think that Zay Flowers, to me, I don't think they could have gone wrong. JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba was my number one guy. I would have loved him there. Quentin Johnston, I was higher on him in Baltimore than some, but definitely I wouldn't have taken him over Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison. I think Addison versus Flowers is a toss-up compared to what certain skill sets you like in some certain areas. But to me, I don't know. I think with the improvements that I've seen, with how explosive he is, how elusive he is, you see the athleticism there. He's able to contort his body. To me, I like the pick, and I think he's going to bring a dynamic aspect to Baltimore's offense where we saw that dynamic ability with Rashad Bateman last year. We know what Odell Beckham Jr. can do. Well, there are some questions about what he's going to look like after the injury, but we know what he's capable of. So now adding Zay Flowers to that equation, he seemed excited to be in Baltimore, was talking about Lamar, talking about Odell, talking about Rashad Bateman, said that, the Ravens visit was his best visit, his favorite visit. He seems all in on the notion that Baltimore is the place for him. Said that if he fell to 22, he knew he was going to be a Raven. So he's excited. I'm excited. A lot of people are excited, but now obviously what has to happen to move forward with this draft, we'll get to that in the final segment. But coming up, we'll continue talking about Zay Flowers. We'll talk a bit about Lamar's extension. That'll be the main meat of that second part of the show. So be sure to stay tuned for the Lamar talk, and we'll be right back here on Locked On Ravens. But first, this episode is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. And you've heard me talk about this mobile game app a ton. And if you've ever thought you'd make a good GM, you have to give this game a try. It's not as easy as you might think to create a dynasty. When you play Ultimate Football GM, you get to control and manage every strategic aspect of your team as you play through seasons and lead your team to glory, trying to build a historic dynasty. And if you want to manage your team like the Ravens, you sign your quarterback to a long-term deal, you draft a wideout in the first round, you could absolutely do so. You can play with friends or family, and every decision you make can have good or bad consequences, so you got to be careful. You got to manage really carefully. And even once you download it, you don't even need Wi-Fi to play. And with Ultimate Football GM, you're responsible for controlling the destiny of your franchise by hiring the right coaches and coordinators, managing all the finances, including negotiating player salaries and terms, navigating your franchise through free agency, the draft, injuries, player personnel issues, and all the ups and downs of a season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is going to be free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On Ravens, this will get a 100% free boost to their franchise using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps. Make sure to check it out today. Download the games at ultimate-gm.com. Look it up on the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. We return here, our second segment, Locked On Ravens, here on Friday. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you. Thanks for tuning in with us again here, making us your first listen of the day. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and in audio form for all of our content. Turn notifications on here as well. But let's talk a bit about Zay Flowers just for a tad more. Again, I think he brings a dynamic ability to Lamar Jackson, to this Ravens offense, and can be a missing piece. Again, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, that offensive line. I like that offense, especially under Todd Monken. Zay Flowers, we know that Todd Monken likes to throw the football. Todd Monken must be one of the, I talked about this on the stream, Todd Monken must be one of the happiest people in Baltimore right now. After the Ravens sign Odell, they sign Lamar to the contract, and they draft Zay Flowers in a span of less than 3 weeks. He must be doing his dance over there. So I'm excited for Flowers coming in, that dynamic route running ability, the explosiveness, and obviously the plays he can make after the catch. But Lamar Jackson, pretty big news. And honestly, like, everything kind of got smushed together, as I kind of talked about. The Ravens said draft weekend is so busy, we're going to make it even busier. Here's the biggest extension in team history. Lamar, 5 years, $260 million. Out of that, 185 is total guaranteed there. But again, we don't really know every specific aspect of that deal. We've talked a lot about what the deal could look like. We've talked a lot about Deshaun Watson. Lamar gets more average annual values. Now, he's now the highest paid quarterback in the league in terms of average annual value at $52 million per season. That beats Jalen Hurts' deal. And the agent for Jalen Hurts put out, that was a nice 4 days of being the highest paid quarterback. Lamar trumps that. Jalen had the 51. Lamar gets the 52. But again, as I've talked about, that's always going to go up. Like, with the way the market is, with the TV deals, with the money coming in, with the revenue, the average annual value with the salary cap also increasing, that can go up no problem. The problem for a lot of, I guess, teams is giving out the fully guaranteed contracts. A lot of people thought the Deshaun Watson deal could have been the start of that trend. Could have been, it was the 230 deal, 230 guarantee. That's fully guaranteed money. Ends up being an outlier, I think. And I really think that the Lamar contract is the nail in that coffin, where it seemed like for the NFLPA and the quote unquote guidance, personally, I don't think it was very good guidance, but the guidance they gave Lamar was, hold out for that deal. See if you can get it. You're the guy to get it. I think Lamar finally said, look, I'm going to do this my way. I think Lamar's mom had a big influence, Lamar's team outside the NFLPA. But I think Lamar finally just wanted to do things his way. And I'm not saying he necessarily caved, but I think if the reports and everything was true in terms of fully guaranteed, and again, I think those kind of shifted from he wanted the fully guaranteed money to he wanted more than Deshaun Watson's 230. he still got a really good deal. And all the credit in the world to Lamar. Again, I do think things would have gone faster if he had an agent, but I give a lot of credit to him. He got the deal done, became the highest paid quarterback in NFL history without an agent. And again, that's something I think Lamar has strived for. He went on the shop with LeBron James, as I've mentioned multiple times, said the whole thing about wanting to be a billionaire, wanting to be a champion. Well, that deal that he got is a very good step in that direction. So we'll see how it honestly plays out in terms of what is the actual guaranteed at signing money. That's actually a very important number, so we'll probably get that. And I don't think it's not been put out at the time of this recording, but maybe over the course of the next 24 hours or the course of the next week, we will get that number and honestly see how it works cap-wise. That's another huge part of this. And the fact that it got done before the draft, I guess it was on draft day, but still done before the draft actually started was huge. I know there were a lot of rumblings about DeAndre Hopkins potentially coming to Baltimore. Seems like that ship has officially sailed, not only because of Zay Flowers, but because the Cardinals GM, I think, has made it clear that Hopkins is at least going to remain a Cardinal for now. We'll see what ends up happening. But the Ravens, I think, they could make a move. They could make one more big move. And I'm going to look today. I didn't have the time. I've been so swamped. I'm going to have to look at what corners could realistically, like if they were to draft a corner in the third round, bring in maybe a Marcus Peters or a Rock Yessie, and I still think there's an avenue for them if the Lamar deal saves them $10 million against the cap this year, 15, 20, 25, they can make a big move for a big player at that position, which is obviously their biggest need, and put a 1B guy next to Marlon Humphrey. I'm going to say a name. I don't know how realistic it is. I'm going to do research on it, so don't absolutely break me down for it here. Jair Alexander, Packers corner. We don't really know what Green Bay's timeline is right now with Jordan Love. Don't know what it would take to get Jair Alexander. I don't even know his contract right now. I'm just throwing out a name. You can do with it what you will, but I do. If it ends up becoming a trend, I kind of want credit for starting the train. I know it's kind of been floated out there before, but Jair Alexander, Lamar's teammate at Louisville, the two got along. The two are friends. Hey, I'd like that, but we'll see. I don't know how realistic that is. I'll have to do research on it and report back to you in the live stream we'll do later today after the draft is done. Day 2 of the draft is done, but that's an option for him. That's why this extension was so important to get done. So it now gives the Ravens more flexibility. I think it's a good deal for the Ravens. It's a good deal for Lamar. I'm just happy. I'm happy for everyone involved. There's been so much turmoil, so much up and down, roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster. That's the word I use to describe it. It's been a roller coaster of an offseason. We've been talking about it here on Locked On Ravens for it literally seems like my entire life, like my entire span of doing this show. Feels so long, and now we're done. We're past that point. Lamar's a Raven for the next 5 years, and it's a good feeling to know that, I know a lot of teams right now are kind of worried about the whole quarterback purgatory thing where, for example, I wouldn't want the Ravens in a situation where they were paying Daniel Jones the type of deal that he got, or Derek Carr the type of deal that he got, or, even a Geno Smith or Jimmy Garoppolo. And again, no disrespect to those guys. Again, I think Geno Smith had a heck of a year, comeback player of the year. He's somebody who absolutely earned every penny of that deal. And all the guys earned those contracts too, but were they really worth that? Like Geno Smith, I think fine. Like, he got that deal and whatnot, but I don't think you want to be in that situation where you don't have a top 10 quarterback, but you're paying them top 10 quarterback money, or top 15 quarterback, you're paying them top 15 quarterback money. To me, I think it's either you want to have a quarterback on a rookie deal, and if that does not work out, fine, you reset. Lamar worked out. Lamar more than worked out for them. Again, 73.8 win percentage, unanimous MVP in 2019. His improved each and every year in some aspects, has a way to go in some others. He's not a perfect quarterback. I would like to see a couple things get better with him, but he has improved in different aspects every single season. Lamar's worth the money. Lamar is worth the money 100%. And to me, if you were to kind of go with the uncertainty route ahead of the 2023 season here, is it going to be Tyler Huntley after this year? Is he going to play on the franchise tag? What's a trade? We're done with that. No more Lamar trade talk for at least years. Like, we don't have to talk about that. I'm very relieved that the whole situation is over. I'm sure that, you listening are too. And again, I'm happy that the situation is behind us. We can finally say we survived the Ravens Lamar Jackson contract situation. Look at us go. We did it. We talked it out here on the show. I appreciate everybody who rocked with me during it, whether you are an everydayer or you're listening for the first time or a couple times here. If you want non-Lamar talk, we're not going to have some more of that now as I can get back to somewhat of a more concrete plan in terms of what the content can be here. I know we were kind of just, Lamar had something to happen with Lamar today. We got to talk about it. Now we can kind of structure out the show a little bit more. Lamar gave us plenty of content, but now we can talk about this team, the aspirations, and Lamar is a part of that team as opposed to the uncertainty. So again, Lamar, 5 years, 260, 185. Good numbers for him, good numbers for the Ravens. Lamar will continue to be a staple in the Baltimore community and obviously on the field for the Ravens for a long time here. But coming up in our final segment, we'll talk a tad about DeAndre Hopkins, but also get into what the Ravens could do here today on day 2 of the draft. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot to dive into on Locked On Ravens. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. And if you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the sugar and calories and you need to get the best tasting protein bar ever in Built, you have to try these. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices but you don't want to compromise on taste, I've got just the thing for you with Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. They taste so amazing you won't even think they're that good for you. What makes Built Bars so good is, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, and they have only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now I didn't even need to wait to get a box. For years I've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club, while you can still get your specialty flavors at Built.com. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box squeeze and cream bar, double chocolate bar, or coconut puff. If you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors such as brownie batter puff and churro puff. You can thank me later. We're back, Locked On Ravens, Friday edition, rounding out the show. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you. And just a reminder, we will be streaming again today after rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. We'll go live. It won't be midnight. We did a midnight edition of the show. It was Ravens, Locked On Ravens After Dark. So we had that. If you haven't checked out the streams from yesterday, our content, be sure to go back. Really exciting day for the Ravens yesterday. So emotions definitely running high in a good way. But yeah, we'll be streaming after the draft is over today and after the draft is over tomorrow. So 2 more days of streaming here, and I engage with the chat a lot more. You can talk with either the people in the chat or with me, and I'll get to as much as I can there. So a really fun time. But I do want to kind of wrap up my points about how I kind of mentioned earlier and throughout the show here, how I believe the Ravens instantly became winners of this draft weekend with the Lamar extension and with the Zay Flowers pick. I mean, you have to look at this as the Ravens, they ended up erasing all doubt about who their quarterback was going to be. They can move forward here. They sign who I still think, and a lot of people think, is a top 10 quarterback in this league. Obviously, the AFC is loaded. You got to have a good quarterback in the AFC. You absolutely have to. The Ravens now have their guy for the next 5 seasons, and that to me is an instant win. Plus, you add Zay Flowers to continue to add to the offense. And to me, it's what I've been talking about throughout the show. The points that I've made about Zay Flowers, about Lamar Jackson, brings me back to the point and ultimately the title of the show, which is the Ravens, I believe, instantly became winners once the Lamar extension was signed and once the Flowers pick was made. You get a great deal with Lamar Jackson. You bring him back to the team. There's no more uncertainty, and you add an electric playmaker who I think fits into this offense in multiple different ways. There are a couple of questions with both moves, but I think still they instantly solidify Baltimore as, one of the winners of draft weekend, if not the winner of draft weekend. We'll see how the rest of it unfolds. But even if everything goes completely wrong for Baltimore, they got their quarterback and they got a good receiver. So that I think is a win for the Ravens 100%. But as I talked about, the stuff still has to go right over the course of the next couple of days here. So what can they do on day 2? Baltimore only has 1 pick. Currently, maybe they make a move to get more, but 86 in the 3rd round. 86 is their pick. They traded their 2nd rounder, obviously, for Roquan Smith from the Bears. And again, I want to put this out there because I really want to be right about it, and I want as many people to know about it as possible. I'm going to put it on Twitter today, too. When the Ravens are on the clock with the pick that they traded for Roquan Smith, I almost guarantee it. I literally almost guarantee it that the Ravens will say, we select Roquan Smith with this pick, and then a picture of Roquan or something like that. If there was a FanDuel prop, I would take it. I don't think there is. It'd be funny if there was. It's just, Jake, Luke, and I talked about it yesterday, so it was kind of funny that we brought that up. Denver did it with Russell Wilson. The Browns did it with Deshaun Watson last night. But regardless, 86 is their pick. And the Ravens, I think, are in a good spot. And honestly, as much as I wanted the Ravens to take a Joey Porter Jr. or a Deontay Banks last night, I was still, again, one, happy with the Flowers pick, but two, the way this corner class is shaped, there is a real shot. There is a real shot that Baltimore gets a really good corner at 86 because there are so many good corners in this class. And yet, we saw Devon Witherspoon go. We saw Christian Gonzalez and, Manuel Forbes and Deontay Banks. But we did not see Joey Porter Jr. go, Cam Smith, Kelee Ringo, DJ Turner, Julius Brents, Tyreek Stevenson, Darius Rush, Clark Phillips III, Eli Ricks. There are a lot of good corners left. Now, the Ravens at 86, there's going to be a run. Some of these guys are going to go. Joey Porter Jr., I would bet a lot. I would bet a lot that he's going to go to Pittsburgh with the first pick of the second round. He was a target for him probably at 17 when they had that pick before they traded up for Broderick Jones. And Pittsburgh getting him would just be like, oh, come on. Like, of course. But yeah, I think they're going to end up getting Joey Porter Jr., but I think it's maybe realistic. A guy like a DJ Turner or a Ringo or a Brents or a Stevenson, I think Cam Smith probably goes way before the Ravens get to him at 86. But then the question becomes, do you trade up? Like if Julius Brents and Tyreek Stevenson are available at the beginning of the third round, let's just throw DJ Turner in there too. If those three guys are available, I mean, I'd be ecstatic with either Brents or Stevenson. I really like those guys. I think Turner's really good too. I like Darius Rush. Ringo is someone who I think could be really good too. If some of those guys are available at the start of the third, do you start to think about making a trade to go up if you're the Ravens? Do you try to trade 86 and a fourth next year, considering the Ravens are still in line to get a fourth for Ben Powers? I mean, that could be an option. It could be, do you trade a player in there? Is Patrick Queen going to get traded? Is Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, some of the names I know that they've been floated around by some people. So that's a really intriguing option. But again, only one pick in this second day is kind of the trend we've seen over the past couple of seasons. They did not have a second round pick in 2018, did not have one in 2019, did not have one in 2021. In those drafts, we saw a lot of good guys go, a lot of good players. Eric McCoy from the Saints, I talk about a lot. Creed Humphrey, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I could pull up a draft right now, and I could probably name like 20 more. I don't have it in front of me. But those are the types of players that the Ravens are probably going to miss out on today because they don't have a second round pick. Now, again, Roquan Smith is like 10 times the player you want your second round pick to be. That was a good trade. It was a good trade by Eric DeCosta. But that doesn't mean it's going to hurt a little bit to see some of these guys go, especially right around the Ravens when they had that original pick. I still don't know the exact number it was, but that will probably sting a little bit to see some of those guys go when you're thinking, oh, they could have taken that guy there. But I'm very happy with Roquan Smith as that second round pick, as I still think the Ravens socials are going to tweet out. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do at 86. Other positions they could go with. Edge at 86, we saw a couple of edge guys go off the board pretty late at the end of that first round, Philadelphia. But I think an edge is in play there. Maybe a running back could be in play at 86. Maybe maybe an offensive lineman, which is a sneaky need. Defensive line, which is a sneaky need. They could do that. I think wide receiver, they're done. I think they should, maybe if they do one later, like day 3. But at this point, I don't know. I would probably lean off a wide receiver, focus on getting 2 corners. Maybe look, I think a dream for me would be maybe Tyreek Stevenson or Julius Brents, and then like Corian Bennett, like maybe someone like that, Maryland guy. So that to me is an option. But 86 is a big pick for them. Again, since they went wide receiver, I would really like it if they go corner. If you have any other draft targets you want, you can put them down in the comments below. I'm interested to see what your thought process is surrounding what the Ravens could be. So be sure to keep it locked on Ravens here as we continue our draft coverage. Again, a ton from yesterday. It's so much spam. Also, my mic got kind of funky during the Zay Flowers live stream, so I apologize for that. Obviously, I can't hear it at the time I'm recording. I have it muted. So I think I got everything sorted out, but I apologize for that. Technology is still not my friend. It has not been my friend for a long time. If you're an everydayer, I've had plenty of technical difficulties over the course of my time as the host of this show. Almost at 1,000 episodes, though. This is it's crazy to think about how we're almost at 1,000. We're coming up now on that pretty soon here. So that's a big milestone for me. I appreciate all the support. If you want to subscribe to the channel, like the video, I greatly appreciate that. If you want to follow along in audio form too, you can subscribe for free, both audio and video. I'm going to get back here later today. I'll be live streaming. We'll be getting you through the end of day 2. So round 2 and round 3. There'll be no shows on Saturday and Sunday, obviously, but there will be a live stream on Saturday recapping the draft. And we'll be right back here on Monday with our regularly scheduled programming. So thank you for tuning in here today, and I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.